Since I design and build a new woodworking project every week, I'm always under a time constraint. So over the years, I've developed a finishing system that produces really nice results, and it's super fast. And it all starts with the sanding. I only use 2 grits of sandpaper. I start with a coarse 80 grit sandpaper to shape the wood and smooth out any imperfections, and then I jump immediately to 120 grit to smooth it down. And that's all the sanding is required. The next thing I need to do is get all of the dust off of it. If it's a bigger piece, I use my shop vac and just sweep off most of the dust. I also like to use a tack cloth, which I keep in a plastic bag. And you can get these at the hardware store and they're kind of sticky, and it just takes all of the sawdust off. And the key to the speedy finish is to use spray lacquer. Spray lacquer is great because you don't have to sand it between coats, and you also don't need to follow the instructions on the back that tell you to wait 30 minutes between coats. I always prop my project up just a little bit so that I can spray evenly all the way around all of the visible surfaces. I'll keep track of the time here. It's 11:50 now with the first coat. I usually do this out in the sunlight, which speeds up the drying time even more. It's 11:52 now, and that first coat is already dry, but I can see on the end grain where it didn't soak in very well. So I can put the second coat on. All right, now it's noon and it doesn't feel tacky anymore, so I can apply another coat. When you spray that on, the only thing you want to be careful about is that you don't spray it so close that you get pools of lacquer. It's 12:06 and ready to apply the fourth coat. With those 4 coats on there, the finish is still soft, but it's dry to the touch. Now I can apply just a couple of coats of finish on the underside surfaces, the parts that won't be seen. And since it is still soft, if I were to set it onto something for any length of time, it will stick to that. So instead, to do the underside surfaces, I've got a board with a few nails on it that I've cut the heads off of. And then I can just drop the finished side just gently down onto those. And at 12:24, I can apply my final coat to the bottom. All right, this has been drying for about an hour now, and if I run my hand along the surface, I can feel little bitty bumps, little nibs of dust that have settled onto the lacquer while it was drying. I need to knock those down before I put on one final coat of lacquer. This is an important step, and I think this is what separates a really nice finish from a not so nice finish. You can either use this gray synthetic scrubbing pad, or what I've been using a lot lately is 320 grit sandpaper. I'm barely applying any pressure to this sandpaper at all. Just keep checking it with your hand and you'll be able to feel any bumps or imperfections, and you'll know when it's smooth. Now is when it's super important to make sure you get all of that sanding dust off before you apply your final coat. And at this point, your project can be handled. You probably don't want to subject it to a whole lot of abuse for at least another 24 hours for it to fully cure. But now when you hear me say I'm going to apply a few coats of lacquer to my project, you'll know exactly what it is I'm doing. It allows me to get a video out every Friday.